We're going to shift gears ever so slightly with our next guest. Cynthia De Bruin is the Executive Director of the Gateway Association, a family resource center that provides education, family support, and mentorship for individuals with developmental disabilities and their families. Cindy and her colleagues, Renate Burwash and Barb Williamson, are here to share Gateway Association's journey in developing an employment-first approach to their employment programs and creative ways they're supporting businesses that hire persons with disabilities. Please welcome Cindy De Bruin.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to be here. So two of my wonderful colleagues are here, and I went old school with a PowerPoint, so this way hopefully my face is not going to be on those giant screens right away here. So two of my wonderful colleagues, Barb and Renata, are here, so I'm going to ask them to join me up on stage. And while they're coming up, if you could please indulge me and take 60 seconds introducing yourself to a person or two at your table, and I'll let you know when the time is up. Not much to introduce. All right, that was a quick minute. So by using a show of hands, I'm wondering how many of you shared where it is you work? Using a show of hands. Okay, a lot of people in the room. How many of you shared your title or what it is you do for a living? Okay. So the average person will work 100,000 hours in their lifetime, and that doesn't include the work we do from our handhelds on evenings and weekends. For a person who works full-time, about 40% of their awake time is spent at work. So then it's fair to say that nearly half of our identity is attached to what we do for a living, our job. And the Premier referred to this earlier. Yet we witness firsthand with the little introduction exercise that we started with, that whenever you meet someone new, and once you've learned their name, one of the next questions is likely to be, what do you do for a living? Or whereabouts do you work? But yet for people with disabilities, it's estimated that about 30% are unemployed. And for those with intellectual disabilities, that number is more like 80%. And yet, we are what we do. This has the potential to leave a whole lot of people without a sense of identity. The 1993 movie Dave, starring Kevin Kline, has an interesting clip about why employment is so important and what it means to people. Can we run that?
From today, I'm going to make it the responsibility of this government to find a job for every American who wants one. If you've ever seen the look on somebody's face the day that they finally get a job, I've had some experience with this. They look like they could fly. And it's not about the paycheck, it's about respect. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing that you've done something valuable with your day. And if one person can start to feel that way, and then another person, then pretty soon all these other problems that we're facing may not seem so impossible. You don't really know how much you can do until you stand up and decide to try.
What you do for a living significantly impacts your personal identity. And that's why we were very excited about the Employment First initiative. But to understand how we became involved in employment, I would first like to introduce you to Gateway in a nutshell. Started in 1975, a group of parents came together, and it was primarily a volunteer-run organization. And these parents were innovators. Over the next 20 years or so, Gateway families were a key part of starting some other great organizations and programs in this area that still exist today. This includes the GRIT program, Skills Society, Selections, On Campus, and the Visiting Parents program for babies born with Down syndrome. In 2004, they opted to become a policy-governed organization, hired myself, and then eventually my great team. We pride ourselves in being a family resource center specializing in intellectual disabilities. We support people of all ages and all developmental disabilities. Our primary goal is to support and empower families so the person with a disability has a better quality of life. We aim to meet families where they're at, and our key work includes mentorship, crisis support, planning, and workshops. In 2010, we were contracted out by the Government of Alberta to gather quality of life data through their Personal Outcomes Index, or MyLife surveys. For those of you who don't know about MyLife, it works on a 3-year cycle. In essence, Gateway employees with intellectual disabilities and persons with developmental disabilities, or PDD funding, will interview the 10,000 people across the province who receive PDD funding. That data is provided to a research company that assesses and compares the results to the typical population and forwards these results to the Government of Alberta. When we took this contract, one of the things that was very important to us was the Gateway culture. I needed to ensure that if we brought anyone else into our team, that they would fully be a part, weaved into the fabric of our workplace culture. This meant no contract work, and it meant having our colleagues who live with disability a part of everything that we do. We had employed a lady with an intellectual disability since 2004, so I felt confident in our ability to provide the necessary supports and ensure there was no tokenism. I had anticipated positive impact on our workplace culture, although admittedly, it was even more beneficial than I'd first thought. And what became increasingly obvious over the next couple of years was how rapidly some of their lives changed after they became meaningfully employed. These members of our team were suddenly flourishing in their personal lives. This should not have been a surprise. They were earning an income that they could spend being social out and living life, living beyond poverty. As Kevin Kline said, they can look in the mirror and know that they'd done something meaningful with their day. They were meeting people, building relationships, and had that critical sense of personal identity. In the last 4 years, we've witnessed our colleagues who live with disability fall in love, break up, get engaged, have a baby, obtain a black belt in karate in Japan, get a driving learner's permit, move out of their parents' home, buy a condo, go on vacation, get a second job, rebuild relationships with estranged family, stand up for themselves, come off meds, lose weight, and quit smoking. If you want to talk quality of life, being employed is critical. Being valued for what you contribute is a must. What I hadn't expected to realize, though, were some of the inadvertent barriers that were specific to me as an employer. Things like transportation, poor communication between myself as the employer and the support staff from agencies, and the occasional lack of knowledge regarding employee responsibilities. For some people, this was their first job, and as such, there was a lack of knowledge about what real expectations were. And when I took a step back, I realized that as a family resource center, I had access to lots of insider knowledge that surrounded disability and lots of established relationships within the community, and I could still find it challenging. So we had decided to focus some of Gateway's energies into employment because we witnessed firsthand what being employed did to improve people's identities or self-worth and their overall quality of life. And we also wanted to use what we had specifically learned as employers to help more people not only obtain employment, but maintain it. We're going to focus these efforts in 2 key areas: helping people find work and bringing about a greater awareness to the general public. We started a pilot with 17 people who lived with intellectual disabilities but did not qualify for PDD supports. These folks with unmet needs arguably needed work more than anyone. Now, there were many organizations that were already working towards helping people find work. The focus was on the job seekers and getting them in the door so that they could demonstrate their skills and ability. Makes perfect sense. But yet we live in an economy with a huge labor market pressure, and there is still a pool of potential talent that is not being tapped. 4% unemployment in Alberta, yet an estimated third of people with disabilities don't work. Why? Well, now that we at Gateway had experienced a more involved role as employers to persons with disabilities, we recognized the key role of employers themselves. And what we found in speaking with other employers was that they often had questions and needed support, but if it wasn't a part of the program and it wasn't available to them, or it was only available at the very beginning during recruitment, and some were afraid to ask. Employers, in our opinion, needed to be engaged, communicated with, and an ongoing integral partner. So we built our services to ensure that the employers were supported throughout the entire relationship as well. Ladies, can you maybe highlight for us what this looks like and perhaps share with us a story of how you supported an employer?
So the process through getting employment with Gateway Association starts often with the job seeker. So we spend a lot of time, often hours and hours, exploring with a job seeker with an intellectual disability. So that means talking about passions, that means exploring natural abilities, areas of natural talent, and not only that, but proximity to a potential workplace and things like transportation. And then once we've done that, we will start exploring with an employer, and often that means learning a lot about the business, the specifics of a particular workplace, looking at the workplace culture, whether it would be the kind of environment that would be supportive for someone with an intellectual disability. And then we get to the nitty-gritty of looking at tasks and what kinds of things are not being done, what are your areas of highest turnover as an employer, and what kinds of tasks are you paying people maybe in specialized positions to do that aren't integral to that position. And then we try to bundle those tasks into a meaningful, customized role for the job seeker that works for both the employer and the job seeker. And then we continue to give support throughout. So we talk to the employer about what kind of support do you require as an employer, and what kinds of questions come up along the way. We're there through the entire process.
What a
The only
team.
thing I'd add is just that the key to any of the success that we've had is really just that relationship with the employer and learning to just, because we're passionate about what we do, we want to talk about it, we want to educate, but really we go in to be educated about the business and learn as much as we can, and also let the employer set the tone really about how much support they want. How often they want to be called, or when they want to check in, or when they want to meet, or if they just want our cell number to call us when they need us, or they have a quick question, or they have a serious matter and they want to have a meeting.
So what's the feedback been like from employers?
I think a lot of employers tell us, in fact, all the employers tell us that the support for the employer was often what was missing in past relationships when they've attempted inclusive employment that maybe wasn't successful. So the fact that they can call and ask those difficult questions that maybe aren't politically correct and they're unsure of situations. We had one employer whose first phone call to us after creating a customized position was, my God, he's wandering around and I don't know what to do. What we discovered by coming in and providing support to the employer and the job seeker was that he needed an itemized task list, and he realized that she was very busy and didn't want to be going after her and asking questions all the time. So he was trying to respect that employer's relationship. In maybe some traditional situations, he would have been fired before we'd had the chance to explore and brainstorm some solutions. So that support for the employer has been a really key piece in our success with employment.
So it sounds like it's a make or break often
Absolutely,
with employers.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So now that we were helping people find work, we still had our goal of bringing about greater awareness, and we wanted to ensure it wasn't charitable. Obviously, we wanted to focus on the skills and capacities that people bring and not guilt employers into hiring because it's the right thing to do. This needed to be about smart business and speak to a company's bottom line. And ultimately, we needed to think about what gave us power. Purchasing power. A 2008 Compass research poll found that 78% of Canadians say they're more likely to buy a product or service from a business that has a policy of hiring people with disabilities. So we started our version of the disability dollar. It was modeled after the Grey Euro, which was a targeted marketing strategy to encourage seniors to travel throughout the union and spend their money. In Edmonton, it's estimated that 1 in 100 families are affected firsthand by intellectual disability. The average Alberta household spends $64,453 annually on goods and other services. And this is just the parents and the person themselves. It doesn't include siblings, grandparents, extended family, friends, and others. More than $500 million in Edmonton alone is spent each year by people with intellectual disabilities and their parents. It is estimated that annually in Canada, there is a combined disposable income of $40 billion for those with a personal connection to broader disability. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty tough market to ignore. To help showcase the disability dollar and its benefit or impact, we launched 2 initiatives, our Cash Mobs and our We Belong campaign. Renata, could you please explain what the Cash Mob is exactly and where the idea emerged from?
We borrowed the idea of the cash mob from the Buy Local movement. So they've been cash mobbing small, locally owned businesses in order to encourage people to buy locally and to keep these small businesses alive and bring awareness to the issue. So we used that model and started, well, we had our first cash mob in February, cash mobbing inclusive businesses. So what a cash mob is a group of people who assemble at a business to spend their dollars and show support. So, and usually it's around $20, but it depends on the organizer. So we started with Planet Organic, and we cash mobbed them. It's over a 2-hour period, and yeah, it's a great experience.
So I know this video was sent out as a lead up to the symposium, but for those of you who maybe missed it, we're just going to play it again. It's just a brief one.
This is our city. Right now, Edmonton is the 2nd fastest growing city in all of Canada. A city with lots of opportunity and one that prides itself on being socially conscious. And yet, 80% of people living with intellectual disabilities are unemployed. Why? Did you know that unemployment leads directly to higher poverty rates, social isolation, mental illness, and even suicide? We know that communities are stronger when everyone belongs, and it's exciting to see that this realization is reaching the workplace. Avril works as an employment support clerk for the City of Edmonton. Her employer says she has a great attitude and willingness to learn, so she's become a valued member and contributor to the team. Turner works at Riverside Honda. His employer says Turner has become an important part of the fabric of Riverside. He has a great attitude, and his smile is infectious. The work that Turner does goes a long way in providing the customer with a good experience when they come into our store. Eric works at Excalibur Pipeline. They say Eric is a viable part of our workforce, and he takes care of his duties with diligence and passion. I know every employer wishes all their employees had these attributes. Now, more and more employers are embracing the idea that people with intellectual disabilities are valuable assets in the workplace and fantastic employees. So come on, Edmonton, let's support these employers who hire inclusively. Here's how. Share this video on social media and invite everyone you can. First, show up Sunday, February 23rd between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. at Planet Organic Edmonton South, 7917 104th Street. Second, find a cash mob organizer at the door who will give you a green laid aware and a disability dollar. And third, spend $15 to show your support for meaningful paid work opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities. Your support can help build an inclusive Edmonton. Every second month, Gateway Association will be cash mobbing businesses in and around Edmonton that hire inclusively. Who's going to be next? Like us on Facebook, find us on Twitter. Make your cash count. From Gateway Association.
So Renata, what was the feedback from customers?
So customers were really excited about, you know, just the buzz that was going on at Planet Organic, because it was a mob. There was a lot of people there, and they wanted to know more, which is what we were hoping. I mean, we're trying to bring awareness around inclusive employment and the importance of it and the benefits of it, and really acknowledge these awesome employers who do believe in inclusive hiring. So yeah, everyone wanted to know more about it, which is what we were hoping for.
So Barb, do you know how much the employer earned in that 2-hour time span?
In just 2 hours during the cash mob, that employer earned more than $5,000 just from cash mobbers alone.
That's great. So how do you decide who gets mobbed?
So just recommendations from the community and other agencies. And of course, we've got a long list ourselves of amazing inclusive employers. When we get a recommendation, actually we've had quite a few phone calls also since the last cash mob of other employers who say, you know, how can I be cash mobbed? I'd really like this for our store. And so I think Cindy's going to go over some guidelines, but we have guidelines around what meaningful employment means and what inclusive hiring, you know, is.
And can you tell us about the next one?
So our next cash mob is in St. Albert at the Winners there. We thought that wouldn't be a difficult place to cash mob. People like to spend money there. And that's going to be on June 22nd. Winners has been an amazing, inclusive employer for a long time, and we really want to acknowledge that and bring awareness to them.
Thank you. So the other initiative that we're using to help bring about awareness is our We Belong campaign. In order for people to be able to use their purchasing power, they need to know where to spend their money. Now, to qualify to be a We Belong employer or business, the following 4 conditions must be in place. The employment contract must be directly with the employer, not through the agency. The employee must make minimum wage, no exceptions. The workspace must be alongside the other employees, no sheltered workshops. And the employee is engaged in all aspects of workplace culture. That includes Christmas parties, thank God it's Friday after work drinks, potlucks, etc. We are currently updating our We Belong website and plan to have the new launch in July. An app is being built and will be available for free download on September 2nd. The website lists places that inclusively hire, it shares stories of success, provides tips and strategies, and other helpful information. The app is a user-friendly way to be able to identify who nearby is an inclusive employer. So if you're heading out to purchase $5,000 worth of fence supplies, you can take a quick look and decide where it is you want to spend your money. Or if you're out and about and decide to stop and grab lunch, you can look and see where the closest restaurant is that is an inclusive employer. There's no ownership of We Belong. This is not about who Gateway has worked with or helped find jobs. We want this initiative to be collectively owned by this community. There are many great businesses doing many great things, so if you have any suggestions for those who should and could be included, please don't hesitate to connect with us. So I think that leaves us about 2 minutes for questions and answers, and I think we're competing with lunch, which is really never fun to do. So unless there's any really burning questions, perhaps what we can do is we're going to be around the whole day and tomorrow, so connect with us if you have any questions or have great ways to partner, because we're always excited to do that. Thank you.
Thanks. Nice job.